In the name of God, good morning to all our friends from the US and Europe. Good evening to all those from Middle East and India. This is Mohammed Rafiq. Welcome to the latest edition of Business Talk, a specialized program organized by ICW Bangalore. As working professionals and business owners, we all strive to achieve the highest levels of success in whatever we do. And looking around us, we see some businesses and technologies that have transformed the world to levels we cannot even imagine. And we wonder how these ordinary men like you and me have become legends and superheroes. What is the secret sauce that makes them so successful? Do I have it in me to do the same? Well, if these are the questions in your mind, don't worry. You're absolutely in the right place here today. The business talk session today addresses this very topic on how to be a successful entrepreneur, 5 critical qualities. And what way better can we do this than hear this from an expert of international repute who has been there, who's been successful, and now is so happy to share his experience with us. I'd like to introduce Mr. Mirza Yawar Baig. Just a few words about Mr. Mirza Saab. Founded and president of the Yawar Baig Associates, Mr. Baig has over 35 years of experience in the field of training and consulting. He's a successful entrepreneur, an international speaker, he's a coach, he's a trainer, he's a consultant, he's a specialist in leadership development, and what more, he's an author as well. A fantastic package all in one. Uh, in one of his books, The Business of Family Business, he focuses on how families make the critical transition of being person-led to process-led. He also lends advice to startups on how to scale up their own businesses. And throughout his career, he has trained more than 200,000 managers, technologists, administrators, and teachers. Welcome to the session, sir. Now, just before we start, I'd just like to say how the session will proceed. Mirzaza will take over after this, and he will present for the next 30 to 40 minutes, after which there will be a Q&A session for about 30 to 40 minutes, and we hope to wrap up. So without any further waste of time, I give it to Mr. Mirza Saab. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here and to talk about what is, without a doubt, my favorite topic that I like to talk about, and that is entrepreneurship. I want to begin by doing something which I have not done before. Okay, where is that? Okay, I'm going to try and do this in, as Rafiq Bhai said, in 40 minutes or so. And then I'm happy to answer questions. I was sent a set of questions which are with me as well, so we can go with them or anything else that comes up. Now, I'm assuming that you can see my screen. The first thing I want to ask you is, do you have a business? And if the answer to that question is no, you don't have a business, then my next question is, why not? Because you learn entrepreneurship the same way you learn cycling, by doing it, not by talking about it, not by watching videos about it. You learn entrepreneurship, you learn how to be an entrepreneur by being an entrepreneur. I am very evangelical about this entrepreneurship business because, especially in the post-COVID world, there are two very powerful forces that have been unleashed. They would probably have been unleashed anyway. COVID upscaled it. COVID brought it on much faster. One is AI, and the other one is remote working. As I'm sitting here in Connecticut, I know one of the largest insurance businesses in Massachusetts has sold their entire retirement fund business to another company, thereby, within quotes, depending on who's looking at it, releasing 2,000 jobs. Now, depending on who's looking at it, whether you think of that as a release or whether you think of that as something which is a calamity, or you might like to think of that as something which is the impetus you needed to become an entrepreneur. Now, this story I'm telling you is not restricted to Massachusetts. This is what we are seeing across the world. These two forces, AI and remote working, are rapidly engaged in changing the whole format of what, within quotes, work looks like. So my question to you is, are you a job seeker or are you a job creator? And I think this is a very, very critical point. Job seeker or job maker or job creator. I have written many books, but two of them I want to draw your attention to. And if you are interested, you can find them on Amazon. One is called An Entrepreneur's Diary, which basically it has my own journey as an entrepreneur, what I did, why I did, what were the challenges, how I was able to overcome them, and so on and so forth. It's called An Entrepreneur's Diary. The other one is The Business of Family Business, which Rafiq Bhai also mentioned at the beginning in my introduction. You might like to read these two books, and I hope that you will enjoy them. Now, even though I began by asking you, do you have a business? I want to say to you that business to me is not necessarily selling something for money. Business to me is something that you are personally responsible for. And so therefore, I'm saying to you that entrepreneurship is not about business alone. It is about really the willingness to take responsibility for your life. So if you're looking at an entrepreneur, you may say, well, you know, this person is very entrepreneurial in nature, but he or she does not own a business. You don't have to own a business to be an entrepreneur. It is your attitude. And that is why I want to share with you this slide. This is the picture I took in Pune. I was there on an assignment. I was going to the airport, and at a traffic light, I saw this young man. And you see the picture there.
I think you have not shared your screen. Your presentation is still not visible.
Look at that. Sorry about that. Thank you for share screen. Okay, have you got the screen now?
Yes, yes, we can see. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you for the heads up. All right, there we go. Hold on a second. One more thing. Oh, great. Okay. Now the thing that you see here is this guy in Pune who was at this traffic signal, and now see, just look at him. Here is this person who he is a key maker. What do you see about this person? What stands out? Now, what stood out to me was a few things. One was the fact that here is somebody who is proud of his work, who takes pride in it, who has put his name on it. He is not just anybody. He is Samir Keymaker. Then he doesn't leave it to you to lean out of your car window and ask him who he is. He has a sign there which has his name and which has his mobile number. So even if you can't talk to him there, the signal turns, you are going home, you've got his mobile number, you can go home and call him and he will come and do the work for you. Then what does he do? He makes it easy for you to contact him. So he doesn't have one sign, he has several signs. He has those keys hanging on the tree, and then he has a sign on top which has his name in Hindi. Now, then if you notice, he's sitting on the pavement, but the cloth that he has on which his tools are arranged very neatly, that cloth is white. Now, white shows up dirt, and his cloth is not dirty. So he wants you to notice that he is somebody who takes care of his things, and he is somebody who takes pride in his work. Now, therefore, I'm saying to you that it's not how much you know, but how much you do, which makes a difference. And here is to me, here is one of the finest examples of an entrepreneur. We're not looking at a global businessman or woman. We're not looking at a billionaire. We're looking at a young man, obviously poor, sitting on the pavement. I mean, there is really, you can't get, less than that. Yet, he is a great inspiration. As far as I'm concerned, he's a great inspiration. He was a great inspiration for me, and I am sharing this inspiration with you. If there is anybody in Pune, drive around until you see this guy and tell him that you heard me talking about him in this webinar. Let's go to the next slide. What happened to this slide? All right. So which brings me to the point of attitude, and I believe that attitude is everything. Attitude is something that if you have the right attitude, then you are a winner from the word go, and if you don't have the right attitude, then nothing else will substitute for that. So attitude is not the only thing, it is everything. If you ask me to give you the success of entrepreneurship, and frankly, not only entrepreneurship, but practically everything in one word, that word is differentiate. Why differentiate? Because differentiation creates brand, brand inspires loyalty, and loyalty enables influence. Now you will see two yellow lines on my screen. I was warned in advance to turn off annotations from the participants. I delayed a little bit, and so somebody was able to draw two lines across my screen. I'm very happy that they took the interest to do that. It adds a nice accent to what I'm doing here. Also, it illustrates very clearly the issue of attitude. If somebody comes to a webinar like this and then has the interest to draw lines on somebody else's screen, I don't know whether that was done with the intention of adding value or not. That person may like to look at their own attitude and see if that is helpful or not. So what must we do? We must change our focus from consumption to contribution. The reason I'm saying that is because if you ask anyone to describe a successful person, usually the general description that you get is in terms of net worth. It's in terms, then if you go further, it's in terms of the kinds of mansions you own, or the planes you own, or the cars you drive, and whatnot. Very seldom do we talk about the contribution of the individual. Now, I'm saying that contribution is far more important than consumption, because nobody cares about all the rest of the stuff. What people only care about is how they benefited or did not benefit from you in their environment. So contribution is critically important. So changing the mindset from consumption to contribution, from what I own to what I can give. That is one. Second thing is to do that consistently. I mean, it's not enough to contribute, once in 50 years. It's something that must be done on a regular basis, because as I always tell anyone who's willing to listen, that you're only as good as your last transaction. People's memory is very short. So every transaction has to be of top quality and must leave the impression in the person's mind that they got something beneficial from you. If you're doing that, you build the biggest asset you have, which is trust. And trust is the platform on which everything runs. Trust is the platform on which your success runs. So if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, whether it is as a business person, or whether it is as a social activist, or whether it is in any other way, including, for example, a successful parent, a successful spouse, the foundation of that, the platform on which that whole thing runs is trust. And trust is a factor of contribution done consistently. We are talking about the rules of success to be an entrepreneur. And I want to say to you that success is a universal rule, like gravity. It will affect anyone who comes within its purview. So if you follow the rules of success, and I'm about to share an overview of that with you, you cannot help but be successful. So don't worry about success. Look at the process, because the process is what leads you to the final result. These 5 things are as follows. First one, passion. Second one is edge. Third, discipline. Fourth, people. And 5 is perseverance. If we can do these 5 things successfully, then you will be successful no matter what kind of business or what kind of work. I'm using the term business in its generic form, not business as in commercial activity alone. So it doesn't matter which kind of business you are in, you will be successful. You cannot help be successful provided you are doing these 5 things. Now, the first of them is passion. And by passion, I mean passion for entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur is somebody who will not work for anyone other than another entrepreneur. So it's not somebody who is a paper pusher in an organization. It's not somebody who's, within quotes, looking for a job to get a salary. Even if the person is working for somebody, even if the person is working in full-time employment, you are looking at somebody who takes charge of themselves, who takes charge of their work, who tries to solve problems, who comes up with new ideas, who deals with conflicts, all the things that an entrepreneur does if he or she was working alone. This person will do all of that, even if that person is working for somebody else. Now, I define passion as, if it can't make you cry, it can't make you work, meaning that passion is something that you literally live. You walk, talk, eat, sleep, taste it in your mouth. It is something that you have no other interest other than that passion. That's to me, that's a big criterion of describing of what passion is. Now, when I decided to get into entrepreneurship, it was in 1983, and I wrote this slogan for myself. I wrote this goal for myself. This is my vision and goal, and I said to become a globally recognized leadership consultant. And I wrote this for myself in 1983. And that's what I suggest to you, those of you who want to become entrepreneurs. Write your goal. How do you define yourself? What does the final output look like? And make sure that goal you write in not more than 3 to 4 words. In this goal, there are only 3 critical words: globally recognized, which I use as one phrase, leadership consultant. So it's just it's really 3 words, which is to become a globally recognized leadership consultant. So write a goal for yourself. Important thing is the goal should be big enough to scare you, and it must be worthy enough to inspire you. Nobody rises to low expectations. People rise to high expectations. So raise your expectations, and you will find the energy and the inspiration and the motivation will come by itself. Now, how do you know that? Somebody asked me, this is one of the questions that I was asked. So I'm answering that question right here, which is, how do I know if I have it? Well, how do you know if you're hungry? Right? It's as simple as that. If you have it, you will feel it. It's very simple. So ask yourself, why am I doing this? Can you answer that question? Why am I doing this? How does it add meaning to me? Is it something that you wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, I've got another day? Or do you say, fantastic, I can't wait to get up because I want to do this thing so badly? A very good thing to do that is, in your area of entrepreneurship, who are your role models? So pick role models, pick people who are, within quotes, already there. Now they may not already be there in a complete sense, but they might be ahead of you on the path. That's good enough. So pick role models. And then very, very critically important, and that is set metrics for yourself. Metrics both in terms of what is your return, what will I get if I achieve this. And again, we are not talking money alone. It may be money, but much more importantly, it is emotion, it is spiritual and emotional satisfaction. What do I get at the end of this? If I am successful, what will be my payoff? How will I benefit? That is something which is very critical to be clear about, because what you measure, you know. What you know, you can control. What you can control, you can guarantee. And the opposite is equally true. What you do not measure, you do not know. What you do not know, you cannot control. And what you cannot control, you cannot guarantee. So it is very important to have metrics in your life. Now, what did I do with myself? And I'm sharing that simultaneously because, I'm sitting here in front of you, and I hope that you can benefit from the path that I walked in my own life. Challenge yourself. In my perspective, I work on a system of no plan B. And the reason I say no plan B is because I don't plan to fail. I have a plan A, I have a strategy to achieve that plan A. And if that strategy is not working, it's not failure, it's just a matter of changing the strategy. I need to relook at the strategy. My goal never changes. My goal is the goal. I'm clear about that. That never changes. It's just the way to get to that goal. And this way may change and should change. There should be flexibility on that. So there is no need for any plan B. I do not have a plan B, because the problem with plan B is it makes you complacent. It puts this thing in the back of your mind. It doesn't matter even if I fail, I have a plan B. No safety net. If I fail, then I'm going to the bottom of Niagara Falls. So therefore, there's no question of failure. Number two is no compromise on quality. There are two things that I always say, and this is what I have held in my life. Never compromise on quality and never compromise on ethics and values. Everything else is flexible. Everything else is changeable. But quality, meaning the goal, and that goal is not quality measurement free. The goal in terms of quality, and second thing is ethics and values. Third thing is ruthless measurement of yourself. And I'm using the word ruthless very critically, because the only person you can lie to is yourself. And if you are seriously interested in development, never lie to yourself. Because if you are lying to yourself, then you are only fooling yourself, and the only person that you are going to be harming is yourself. And that makes no sense to me at all. So ruthless measurement, because what we measure, we know. I mentioned this before, and I'm saying it again. Take Michael Harry, for example, the guy who invented Six Sigma quality. He said, if you want to see what people value, see what they measure. And that is something which is very, very critically important, to measure your everything you do, all that your entire input and your output. And fourth one, very important, is invest in yourself. I have a principle, and I've had it from the beginning. Every year I spend money on myself in terms of my learning goals. I buy books, I attend training courses. I'm either learning a new language or something. Every year I spend a certain amount of money on my own learning, and I track that. So that is important, that you measure yourself and you measure how much you are investing in yourself. A question I usually ask people, and I'm asking you, is in the last 12 months, how many books did you read that are related to your work? I'm not necessarily talking about technical manuals. I'm talking about anything from which you believe you can get an idea, you can get some understanding. One of my favorite books is Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien. I've read that twice. I am in the process of reading for the third time, because I think it's a wonderful book to understand political scenarios, especially in today's world. I also write on politics, so therefore it is something which is in line for my work. So my point is, in the last 12 months, how many books did you read? And that is a measurement for you to indicate how serious you are about your own success. And very important also to be clear in your mind about what exactly do you need to learn, specific things. Just making a growth statement, I want to be a better something, no. Specifically, what do you need to learn in the context of what you have set out to achieve? I had set 4 goals for myself. In 1983, between 83 and 84, I set 4. Yeah, Mustafa?
Yeah. Sorry to disturb you. I think there's an issue with your audio. We get echo.
Issue with my audio?
Yeah, we get disturbance. It sounds like a terminator sometimes.
What is happening, you said?
There's a disturbance, audio disturbance. Now it looks okay.
What kind of disturbance?
Now it looks okay. It was
Hold
now it looks, meanwhile, can you also clear the annotation? Click on view options, clear annotations. Delete annotations or options.
Go to the
view options on top.
I've got something more. Record, blah, blah, blah. It says show names of annotators.
You have an option to delete annotations. Delete annotations.
I can't seem to find that.
We'll probably continue, no?
Okay. I think we continue. You can share it again. That's better.
Huh?
Please share it again and then disable annotation.
It's already disabled. Okay, the annotation seems to have gone. All right.
Yeah, it seems to have gone, yeah.
Now it's working.
All right. Is the disturbance still there or what?
No, it's clear. It's clear.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Sound is okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So between 83 and 84, I set 4 goals for myself. The first one was to get the professional membership of ISABS, which is the Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science, because I had set my goal as to become a globally recognized leadership consultant. So I enrolled for the ISABS professional membership, which is a 4-year internship program, the equivalent of a PhD in applied behavioral science, except that it is not from a university, so you do not get a PhD certificate at the end of that. I didn't care. I'm not particularly oriented towards certificates anyway. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you can do. The second one was to get an MBA, and I chose the IIM Ahmedabad as the #1 business school in the country. Now, this was the advice of a very dear friend of mine. He said to me that if you want to be a consultant, then an MBA looks good on your CV, and it has to be from the #1 institute in the country, because people, that's all they look at. After that, they are only looking at what you can do for them. So if it's that name opens doors. So that was the second one. Third one was to actually learn how to do leadership training and consulting. I hadn't a clue. I was new to this whole field. I didn't know anything, so I needed to learn how to do that. And the fourth one was to write books, because another few friends of mine, they said to me that it's very important that you write a book, because that is what adds credibility to your field. So if you have a book in a particular, if you're working in a particular field and you have a book in that area, then it makes you, it leverages you, puts you in a different bracket altogether from everyone else. So I set these 4 goals for myself. The interesting thing was, at that time in 83, I had just returned from Guyana, and I had joined the tea plantation industry. I was working in one of the most beautiful places on the face of the planet, which is the Anamale Hills, middle of the Indira Gandhi Indira Gandhi National Park and Tiger Sanctuary. I was managing a tea garden. Very, very beautiful place. And right up my alley, because I love wildlife and conservation and whatnot. But probably the most inaccessible place as far as all of these four things are concerned, because I was in the middle of, on top of the hill, 40 hairpin bends from Coimbatore going upwards, and anywhere I wanted to go, I had to add 3 days to my itinerary. So it was apparently these goals and my situation was completely incompatible. Second thing was the MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Standard answer, 2-year PGDM program. Now, there was no way on earth that I could take 2 years off to do an MBA. Second thing was the fee was 30,000 rupees. My salary in 1983 was 850 rupees. So 30,000 rupees was 30,000 more than what I had. But that was my goal. Learning leadership training and consulting. Well, I looked around, I said, who is teaching that? Is there a course? There is no course. There was no course in 1983. There is no course in 2020. Which means that if I wanted to learn leadership training and consulting, I had to go to individual consultants who are my friends or make friends with them and say, please, 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 can I come and be a fly on the wall in your training room and watch you work, and can I learn from you, and then can you critique me, and can we compare notes and whatnot. Now, as I told you, 4 different goals. Given the circumstances, each one looks impossible by itself. But that was also one of my, sort of great learnings in life, which is also that this, okay. So I'm going to come to what I did with these in a while, but let me go to the second point. Second point is edge. Now, edge is literally, it's like, the cutting edge. It's what cuts. And the sharper the edge, the neater or cleaner the cut. Now, edge is just about mental and spiritual, emotional toughness. It is not so much physical. In some cases, it is also physical because you have to be disciplined in that. But it is more mental and emotional toughness. I don't know if you've read a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. If you haven't read it, you must read it. Malcolm Gladwell is a statistician, and he's written some wonderful books. In Outliers, he talks about what he calls the 10,000-hour rule. And I think this is a wonderful lesson. He actually compares statistically people who have worked on something for 6,000 hours, 8,000 hours, and 10,000 hours. And there is a huge difference between somebody who worked on something for 10,000 hours and somebody who didn't. And Malcolm Gladwell's contention is that to become an expert in something, you must have spent at least 10,000 hours doing that thing. And that is what I set out to do. Now, edge is what? Edge is to recognize an opportunity where people only see problems. And I think we are right in the middle of that. As far as COVID is concerned, losing jobs is a problem, and so on and so on. I mean, I don't want to list it. I know all of you all of us are in the same boat. But do you see that as a problem, or do you see that as an opportunity to do something else? Now, that is very, very important. Second thing is, edge is about postponing gratification. It's not about instant gratification. It's about postponing gratification. And that is where I want to loop back to passion, because you can postpone gratification only if you enjoy the journey, and you can enjoy the journey only if you are passionate about what you are doing. So you need to enjoy taking a risk. We need to enjoy the journey. And if you don't enjoy it, you will not succeed. So be very clear that you are passionate about what you do. Risk-taking has to be an enjoyment. Doing handstands on the edge of the cliff is something that has to be inside your blood. If it is not there, you need to learn how to do that, because entrepreneurship is all about risk. To me, the biggest switch that helped me to understand the importance of risk was to simply ask myself a question. And remember, at that time I was working full-time in a company. A question I asked for myself is, how long do you think this employer is going to think before firing me if they need to fire me to downsize or whatever it is? And I said to myself, this employer is not even going to blink, right? If they need to do it, they will do it. So how secure really am I when I'm working for somebody? The answer is you're not secure at all. Whereas if I'm working for myself, well, I mean, the only one who can fire me today is myself. And I'm not going to do that. So the point is that actually as an entrepreneur, you are far more secure than you are when you're working for somebody. But our conditioning is somewhere, because your salary comes on the first of the month, you feel that that is a secure job. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you will make the same money or even more money, but the cash flow will be staggered, and therefore you feel it is insecure. So this is the switch about risk that needs to be changed in the mind. So what is edge? Edge is about taking tough decisions. So what did I do? The interesting thing was, another googly was that the IIMA, now as I told you, PGDM takes 2 years. 2 years, there was no way I could take off, and there was no way I could leave my job either, because at that time I just got married. Now I got married in 1985, and the PGDM, the IIMA course started in, I got married in March 85, and the course started in April 85. So 1 month after getting married. So what I did was I said, okay, PGDM I can't do because it's 2 years. So what is the option? Now IIMA at that time in 85, they were doing an executive MBA called the MEP, Management Education Program. So I decided to do that. Now I checked out the course. It was the same professor, same case studies, same everything, including the same fee. They were charging same 30,000 rupees. So I said, okay, this course is as good as the PGDM, but it comes condensed. How does it come condensed? Because it was a 5-month course, 5 months, no holidays, 7 days a week, working between 18 and 20 hours, sometimes 22. There were days in which I went 48 hours without sleep. That was how intense the course was. Brilliant course. For some reason, they seem to have stopped it. I don't know why. Anyway, so I said, now what's the next step? Next step was, so I enrolled for the MEP. There was some test and so on. I passed all that. I said, next step is how to pay the fees, because I didn't have the money. So I went to my company and I said, will you sponsor me for this course? This is what the course is. This is how I will get educated. This is how I can contribute to the company. My company listened to all of that and they said, no, we will not sponsor you. I said, fantastic, great, lovely. Now tell me something. Will you pay me the fee? Will you give it to me as a loan? So they said, sure, we give it to you as a loan, but we charge you an interest on it. I said, okay, go ahead, charge an interest. I mean, I had no choice. I had to charge an interest. Then they said, 5 months, you have 1 month annual vacation. So we are going to set off that annual vacation out of the 5 months. And the 4 months, we can give you leave without pay. So what was I in my investment for the course? It was 30,000 rupees loan plus 4 months of leave without pay plus 1 month of vacation. That was my investment. Then they said, you have to also sign a bond to say you will come back and work for us for 3 years. I said, no problem. Show me where's the dotted line. I signed everything and I went off. Word of advice, don't compare yourself with anybody. You are unique, and what you can do and you cannot do, you are the best person to know that. Don't compare yourself with anybody. Number 2, don't tell everyone about your plans. The problem is that many people get scared and they will try to water you down because they are trying to deal with their own being scared. Don't tell everybody. Tell only your mentors. Tell only those who are on your wavelength. Tell those who will challenge you. Don't tell everybody. My biggest learning in this whole thing was no does not mean no. No means not in this way or not at this time. That's it. So if you hit a wall, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Get over the wall, get under the wall, get through the wall. It can be done. There is no way that you will be stopped as long as you have determination and as long as you have creativity. Number 3 is discipline. Very simple, manage yourself. Now, I remember the famous quote of the great boxer, Muhammad Ali Rahmatullah Ali. He said that if anyone tells me that going to the gym, that he likes going to the gym, I will tell him he's a liar. He said, nobody likes going to the gym. You go to the gym because you know that unless you go to the gym, you will lose in the ring. Now, that is the whole issue of discipline. What must you do to be disciplined? I have a set of rules that I say. In terms of discipline, there are 3 major things you need to do. Number 1 is manage yourself. Number 2, manage your family. Number 3, manage your finances. And for all of these, structure is your parachute. That is what will save your life. Structure. Be structured. Spontaneity is all very well, but you need a structure that you follow. Please understand, I'm not talking about apps on your phone the calendar on the Outlook and whatnot. I'm talking about being mentally firm to say that these are my working hours, and during these working hours, the only thing that will stop me is death, and by that I mean my own, nothing else. That is the degree to which you need to be structured. Let me give you a quick detailed version of only one of them, which is managing yourself. I've got 5 things. Number 1, make your bed. When you get up in the morning, make your bed. Don't leave it for 1 minute also, even before you go to brush your teeth. When you get up in the morning, make your bed. Number 2, polish your shoes. It may be okay in the country you live in to walk around in flip-flops all day. No. Wear shoes, close shoes, polish them. It's not about the shoes, it's about you. Number 3, dress for work. It's not okay. There are a lot of these funny videos, especially about Zoom, where people are sitting, dressed like this in a jacket and coat and whatnot, and then suddenly, unthinkingly, the guy gets up and you have a look at his underwear. Not okay. It's not funny. It just shows a wrong attitude. Dress for work, even if you are, and especially if you are working from home, which most of us are doing. Number 4, stick to the hours. If you have working hours, stick to the working hours. And number 5 is, if you have to go out to open your shop or do whatever, do that every single day and do that in time. The more rigidly you follow this structure, the more successful you will be. Take it from me. I've been doing that for the last 35 years. And then, very importantly, personally, eat healthy, no addictions. Cigarettes are an addiction. All tobacco is an addiction. So eat healthy, no junk food, no Coke and Pepsi and stuff, no aerated drinks, no sugar drinks. So eat healthy, no addictions, and exercise daily. No matter what time of the day or night, exercise daily. There's a very good friend of mine who used to be the vice president of marketing in IBM. He used to run up and down stairs if he didn't find a gym, if he didn't have equipment. Even in hotels, he would run up and down stairs. Now, in these days, if you are in a hotel and you're planning to run up and down stairs, I suggest you tell the front office manager, otherwise they'll call the police. But still, do that. Make sure that you are that you are disciplined in this way. The second thing, as I said, is family. Very, very critically important, because without the active support of your family, you cannot win. So make sure that you take people on board. You speak to them, talk to them, help them understand why you are doing what you are doing and how that benefits them, so that they are with you. And number 3, very important, is finances. In finances, very important to differentiate between needs and want, right? What I want and what I need. Now, just because your son or daughter tells me, Dad, you know what? I really need that iPhone 2000. No, you don't. That's a want. That's not a need. Maybe you need a phone to carry with you. And I'm saying maybe because most of my life, I lived in a world which did not have even mobile phones. Forget about smartphones. And I lived very happily. So even that is a maybe. But okay, maybe today, in today's world, you need a phone. You don't necessarily need the latest and sexiest phone that's going. No. So differentiate between needs and wants. And second thing, which I mentioned earlier, was understand cash flows. It will not be first of every month. So you have to manage your own cash flows. Over the year, over 12 months, you will make the same money or maybe even more, but you have to distribute that money over 12 months so you don't get a shock. Now, what did I do? No excuses. Do what you must. In my case, from 1983 to 1994, 95, I took no vacation at all. And that's why I said you must take your family with you. The family must be in it. In my case, it was my wife, and she has been my greatest support and continues to be my greatest support. Without that, I could never have done it. And you can imagine, 12 years, no vacation means what? Means even she didn't have a vacation. She used to spend that time with her parents. Now, okay, so maybe she didn't love me that much. She loved the parents more, who knows? But the point is that we didn't have a problem because we were not going on vacation. Number 2, no spending on anything except learning. I didn't have the money. I was earning 850 rupees. So you can guess. And therefore, no spending on anything. And then when I came back from the company, I had loan payments. So when I came back from IMA, I had loan payments. So no spending on anything except learning. sleeping 4 hours a day. I always sleep 4 hours a day. And as you can see, I'm perfectly healthy. I'm getting older, but that's nothing to do with how long I sleep. Work 7 days a week. And as I told you, that the only way you're going to do that is if you love your work. There is no way that you can work 7 days a week if you need what is called relaxation. Your work has to be your relaxation. I do not have a bumper sticker on my car which says I would rather be golfing. No, I would rather be doing what I'm doing. This is my life, this is my passion. And if I go like this, mid-sentence, I'd be very happy. So this is the issue of loving what you do. And very important, document everything. I write everything. I record everything. And that's how I have literally thousands and thousands of hours. I think I've got about 3,000 or 4,000 hours of video. I've got, I don't even know how many thousand pages of writing. I've written about 35 books. And all of this, and the biggest beneficiary is myself, because I document stuff, I can always go back and I can refer to it. I can see what I did. I can see how some things which I was doing earlier in one way, I'm doing them differently now, and so on and so forth. So structure and metrics, these are the two saviors of you as an entrepreneur. These will be your biggest strengths. These are some of the books. There are, I think, 23 on this screen here. I didn't want to clutter it up with more. Bottom right corner there is my author page. If you go to Amazon and type in my name, you will get the author page. There are another 10 or 15 books in addition to this. How did all this happen? Because of documentation. If you remember, one of my goals was write books. Well, I am writing books. Number 4 is people. Now, I don't mean the standard line, last line at the end of every annual report. Our people are our greatest asset. But if you ask those people, they will tell you stories of how they are abused. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying genuinely believing that my people are the reason I succeed. And believe me, you are only as good as your team. No matter how smart you are, no matter how gifted you are only as good as your team. If you remember, in the early 90s, we had what was called later on it came to be called the .com boom in the US. And then after that came the .com bust. There was a wonderful article in The Economist about that, which analyzed how come this happened. Because I was living in the US at that time, .com boom time, 1997 to 2000. And I was in the US from 1994 onward. So I lived through that .com boom time. And in that time, if you recall, those of you who were here, cash was the easiest commodity available. There were venture capitalists literally walking around with briefcases full of cash. Anybody for any idea, people were willing to fund your idea. Also, ideas were brilliant. There were a lot of, especially in Silicon Valley, lots and lots of very smart people, many of them, if not most of them, Indians, who had brilliant ideas. And cash was easily available. So what should have normally happened? They should have gone on to become billionaires and trillionaires. What actually happened? They went bust. You know why? Because of people. And who actually succeeded was, in most cases, the old companies, the brick and mortar companies like IBM and so on, who have been in there from the time of, the beginning of the world, and they succeeded. Why? Because they had good systems and they had good people. So big lesson is, it's not only, you need good ideas, no doubt about that. You also need funding, but much, much, much more importantly, you need good people, and good people is defined by how you treat people, as simple as that. You're only as influential as you are seen as beneficial. You're only as influential as you are beneficial. Nothing more. Now, my submission to you is as an entrepreneur, as a business person, no matter what you're doing, have one goal, and that goal is serve people. I'm not saying this from a religious angle. It also makes eminent sense from a religious angle, but I'm just saying from a business angle. Serve people. Be in business to serve people, because it keeps you grounded, it keeps you close to your customers. Best way of getting two important things: quick market intelligence and alert yourself to potential threats. The best way to do that is to talk to your customer every day. If you are in the marketplace, if you are in the street, if you are talking to your customer every day, believe me, you have already won. And that's what I mean by serving people. It opens your eyes to potential opportunities and to potential threats in time for you to be able to take advantage of both. And if you are serving people, you get a lot of dua, you get a lot of prayers. And believe me, that is a more powerful, more valuable, intangible asset than brand image. 4 C's, my 4 C's as far as people are concerned. 4 CTS, critical to success. Number 1, communicate. Communicate, communicate, communicate. If you have an unanswered email that you have just left there, then you are saying to the person who sent you that email that you are a piece of trash. I don't care about you, so I am not answering your email. Ask yourself, is that what you want to say to that person? If that is what you want to say to that person, no problem. But if that is not what you want to say to that person, then you are actually saying it to them. That is how they will see it. And obviously then, that is the level of interaction, level of engagement, level of benefit you will get from that person and everyone else that that person talks to. Communicate. Be kind, be caring, invest in people, not just money, your time, energy. Have an abundance mentality. That is very, very critical. Number 2, collaborate with people. Show them what's in it for them. It's not that they're stupid. It's just that many times we have to show people what is in it for them from our perspective. And the bottom line for that is sincerity. This is not about, when you're talking about WIIFM, what's in it for me, we are not talking about a sales spiel. We are not talking about a con job. We are not talking about play acting. We're talking about from the heart, genuinely, sincerely, is there a benefit for them? So collaborate, communicate. I mentioned compassion already because that's where it starts from, being kind. And number 4, paradoxically perhaps for you, conflict is the biggest asset. You know why I'm saying that? And that's the reason I say value dissent. You know why? Because it's only the person who disagrees with you, who is committed enough and who is interested enough in what you're doing. Right? For most people, if they don't like what you're saying, the easiest thing for them to do is to be silent. Yeah, okay, so no problem. Yeah, just go ahead. Right? You're going over the cliff, but please, goodbye. They don't have to say anything. The person who raises a conflict, who raises a question, who is a dissenting voice, is a big asset, because this person, by dissenting, is showing you that he or she is interested enough in what you have to do or say, in what you're saying, what you're proposing, to have an opinion. Now, what you must do is convert that, close the loop. You don't want professional dissenters. I don't like this. No, fine, fantastic. You don't like that. Brilliant. I'm very happy to hear that. So what do you like? Right? Don't make it into a challenge. Don't ask them that question as if you're fighting with them. You say, very nice. Can you tell me, do you have another plan? Can we look at that? I would love to see your angle of this. Now, if you develop that culture in your organization, a culture which values dissent and which converts that dissent into drilling deeper, understanding better, generating more alternatives, more creativity, believe me, you are on a winning bandwagon. I've said this before and I'm saying it again. You will succeed or fail, not because of your idea, not because of finance, not because of government, not because of external conditions, but because of people. Your people will either save you or they will sink you, and that does not depend on them. It depends on you. Because all that you choose to do or choose not to do defines brand value and character. I always say this to myself, and I'm saying it to you. In the end, it's not about them, it's about you. Fifth one and the last one, perseverance. Stay in the race. Stay in the race. What does that mean? It means never give up. As long as you live, never give up. Continue. Every time you fall, treat that as a learning experience and rise up. The race only ends when you fail to get up. The race only ends when you fail to rise. Now, what must you do as far as perseverance is concerned? Is change everything except the goal. As I mentioned to you earlier, goal in terms of quality and ethics and values. These are the only two things that are unchangeable. Everything else is changeable. Uncertainty and chaos, complexity is a source of profit. It's an opportunity. COVID is an opportunity. Working from home is an opportunity. Job losses are an opportunity, right? How will you learn from that? By learning from failure. Don't get worried about failure. If you fail, don't blame yourself. Don't sit around and feel bad. Don't get depressed. Treat that failure as a learning experience. Objectively analyze what happened. Work out an alternate strategy so that you do not repeat that mistake and go on. As simple as that. And then very importantly, listen to people. Take feedback. Don't argue with them. Don't justify. Don't say, no, but you didn't understand. No. Whatever they understood is their reality. If they didn't understand, it's the way you explained. So look at yourself and say, how is it that I was not able to help that person to understand? It's not his fault. It is a problem with your communication. So listen to people, seek feedback, not just accept, seek feedback, and then analyze the feedback. I'm not saying necessarily that everything that comes out of somebody else's mouth you have to accept, or you don't have to accept. But you take it, you listen to that. That is good data for you. Compare that data with what you thought you were doing, what you wanted to do, and see how you can do it better. We're coming to the end of my presentation, and I say to you, excuses don't change reality. A lot of times people spend a lot of time making excuses. You know why this happened, that happened. I say to people, there are two kinds of people in the world. There are those who win, and there are those who tell you why they couldn't win. Now, which one you want to be is your choice. I want to share with you two case studies. One of my favorite case studies that I usually share is sitting there with you, BC Mustafa, ID fresh, but he told me not to do that because he shares with you and he said this is a repetition. But anyway, so I'm not going to share that. But he is a brilliant example of an entrepreneur, which I admire him, and he's an inspiration for me as well. Now, the two case studies I want to share with you. One is the mosquito bat, and I'm sure all of us are familiar with that, especially those of us living in India, in Africa, and so on. The mosquito bat. The best thing to me about the mosquito bat is not just the fact that it kills the mosquito, but the amount of satisfaction it gives you when it kills that mosquito. As you can see here, Taiwanese inventor Sao Ai-shi in 1996 got the global patent for this very simple idea. Old problem, mosquitoes. Simple idea. Something that looks like a tennis racket. It's got a live mesh inside in the center. It's got two safety meshes on either side so that you don't electrocute yourself by accident. It has batteries in the handle. You press the button, you wave the bat, and that's one less mosquito in the world. And you are a happy man or happy woman. Beautiful invention, adds value to people, serves people. Everyone loves it. I'm sure that guy became a millionaire, as did many other people who manufactured this and who exported it all over the world. I know some of you are saying, well, low technology, very good low technology. The point I want to make to you is that to be an entrepreneur, you do not need to do rocket science. You do not need to have this brilliant idea which nobody had in the world. It just has to be an idea that is new for your environment, right? And many times, as I told you, it's the way you look at something. A problem as an opportunity. Here was mosquitoes, problem for everybody. Here is the guy who said, you know what, this is the best opportunity in the world for me to make something which can make me money and which helps people. People are going to be very happy if they can zap mosquitoes. There you go. Second one is this company called Urban Clap. Varun Khaitan, Raghav Chandra, and Abhiraj Bhal started this company, raised $110 million. In last year, 2019, it was valued at $480 million. Fortune India has a lovely article on it. I've given you the link there. Old need. What was the need? I want a carpenter. I want a plumber. I want an electrician. I want some kind of artisan to do some work for me. You know, and I know how much of a problem that is, right? It's a major, major nuisance. First of all, you can't get the person. Then if you get the person, you don't know who is coming. Usually they make a mess. They leave all the mess there. Quality of work, we don't know what kind of quality of work they will do. You don't even know in terms of safety whether that's a person you want inside your house or not. All kinds of problems. All of us have faced them. Then comes Urban Clap. Here are these people, 3 young men, old problem, new idea, which is, how can we systematize this? Here is the need. How can we fulfill this need in a way where the person is checked out in terms of their quality of work? If not, they are trained. The person is then also checked out in terms of who and what they are. So the safety concerns are addressed. And then this person is trained so that they give you great quality work and they give it to you at a fixed price. Because how many of us have had this experience? You call a carpenter, plumber, whatnot, at the end of the job, you ask them, how much must I pay you? And the usual answer is, aap jo chahe dijiye. Give whatever you want. Now, what is this whatever I want? Now, there is this very ugly bargaining that happens and so on and so forth. Not with Urban Clap. You book a job, you get, I mean, I don't have to describe you. I'm sure all of you have used it. If you haven't used it, please do use it. It's a wonderful service. You book a job, you get a work number, work card, name of the person who's going to come, what will that job cost, what time will that person come, everything. The person comes uniform, they're polite, they're courteous, they do a neat job, they clean up after them and they're gone. I have used Urban Clap 2 or 3 times in Hyderabad, especially when IKEA came there. We brought in IKEA stuff and I didn't want to sit around fixing that. So I called Urban Clap. They came and did a brilliant job for me, putting together IKEA furniture. And very importantly, all 3 times, I'm a great believer in tipping. So I wanted to tip them. They would not take the money. Those guys would not take the money. I mean, I think this is also a measure of quality, that here are people who are concerned about their own image of their company. So I think these 3 guys are doing a brilliant job. Again, my point being, old need, new idea. Great. Then I want to end with my motto in life, which I want to give you as a gift, and that is, I will not allow what is not in my control to prevent me from doing what is in my control. I will not allow what is not in my control to prevent me from doing what is in my control. I want to end with that, and thank you very much for this opportunity to ICK and to Mustafa, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you. I'm happy to answer the questions. Rafiq bhai, salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam. That was extremely intriguing, and I love that last bat example. It just goes to say that you need not think of rockets. Yeah, you need not.
Yeah, you don't need to.
That's
It's a question of, I mean, take Samir Bhatia. I mean, there's a classic example, right? Samir Bhatia invented Hotmail and sold it for $450 million to Microsoft. I mean, the need for a web-based free email, I mean, this was there, right? It was floating in the air. I mean, anyone, including myself, for example, I mean, I'm not a great IT guy. In those days, I didn't even know what a computer was. But my point is that it was available to anybody in the field or outside. But here was one guy who took advantage of that, and there you go. So all I tell people is, look around. Look around. You don't know what wonderful ideas are floating around, and always have the service motive, because that will drive you. If you are in the business of serving people, you know what's the thing that you've already assured about is the market.
Sure.
Because there is this need, and you are serving the need. So the market is already there. Now, what more do you want?
No, I think you've already got the juices flowing.
Ask the questions, and then we'll.
Yeah, you've got the juices flowing for everybody. I'm sure people are all searching for all the simplest of things around their homes now.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll just go to the questions. I'm sure you've had a chance to see it, and you've probably addressed a couple as well. But then I'll just keep going, and you can take it up from there. So I think one of the questions they've asked is, what is the groundwork that kind of needs to be done in identifying, a business, and how do I go forth? If you can just shed some light on that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that's the simplest way of answering that is to look around yourself and say, what are the opportunities available in the market. Second question I would say is, what do I like to do? Because not every opportunity in the market is something that I would like to do. So choose also what you would like to do, put the two together. And I think that also answers the second question. There was a question saying, how important is it to have a business plan? Obviously, I mean, it's a, I would say it's a standard answer to say, yes, of course, it's important to have a business plan. But obviously, the business plan will depend on what kind of business you want to do, right? Now, this, as I mentioned, Mustafa's ID Fresh is a brilliant example of taking advantage of a need in the market, right? We all want to have idli dosas, but who wants to sit there with the article and, grind the thing? Here you got, the only thing I haven't figured out, interestingly, I love the guy like a brother, but I still haven't eaten his idli dosa. He never feeds me. So I haven't eaten that, but I believe it's wonderful. Also, what I didn't get my thing around is making the vada with a hole in the middle. That's doesn't seem to happen. But anyway, the point is that he absolutely beautiful packaged thing. Another wonderful example is one of my first clients and a very good friend of mine since then is beauty cosmetics, right? In Chennai, CKR, he started with 3,000 rupees in his pocket, and all he did was, if you remember the term chick shampoo, CHIK. All he did was, it was just a packaging exercise. That the shampoo was already there. All they did was to package it in those little sachets. And the logic of that was so beautiful. The logic was, who needs a shampoo, a bath more? Somebody like you, who has a smartphone sitting in front of a computer, blah, 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 or a worker on a construction site, who needs a bath, who wants a bath more? Obviously that worker, because he's been working in the sun, in sweat and dust and whatnot all day. But what happens to him? Now he wants to go and buy a shampoo bottle. How is it packaged? It is packaged big bottle, which is probably equivalent to 1 week's wages for that man. He's a daily wage laborer, he can't afford that. And the way the packaging is done, it is focused for people like us, because it says, here is this economy pack, which is a little bit more expensive, but you are getting 20% more. Now, all that it means to that guy is, here is something which is even more expensive. Makes zero sense. So what did CKR do? They took the same thing, they put it into a 1 rupee. In those days, it was 1 rupee. 1 rupee sachet. Now, that 1 rupee sachet, believe me, that worker, it was supposed to be a single use for 1 rupee. But believe me, that worker, and if I was in his place, I would use it at least 3 times. I would use half the sachet the first day, next half the next day. Then I would slit the sachet, rub it like this in my hands. I get enough foam. I wash it myself the 3rd day. So I'm using that 1 rupee now for 3 days or 4 days. So that is, chawanni per day, 25 cents per paisa per day. I've got it made. And his business boomed. All it was the packaging idea. So look around yourself. And when you set up your company, make me 10% shareholder for that.
Not just laborers. I know other people who've used it. When we were in college, we used to.
Bet I will use it. Why would I use the whole sachet? The sachet is usable for 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. We could afford only 1 rupee then. All right, just going to the next one. What are the kind of steps and precautions that one needs to take to scale up? Because I think it's a very important question. When do you scale up? How much do you scale up?
Yeah. First question I ask is, do you want to scale up? This is another mental conditioning that we have got, thanks to the stories we tell ourselves. And that is something that I seriously want to ask you. Growth for the sake of growth is the philosophy of the cancer cell. Right? This is a quote from my very good friend Madhukar Shukla, who is a professor in XLRI Jamshedpur. Growth for the sake of growth is the philosophy of the cancer cell. So, issue of scaling up. Why do you want to scale up? Number 1. Number 2, what is the meaning of scaling up? Why must you have a global business? Why not global recognition? global business? Why must you be all India or all America or all Europe or all, why? What is wrong in being a niche producer of something which nobody on the face of the planet does, and you come and do it, and the whole world comes to your door, and that is as much as you do, and you live a very nice life, and once you've gone into your grave, who cares what happens to your business? So ask yourself that first question. Why do you need to scale up? So number two, then how do you scale up? Obviously will depend on the nature of business. So I mean, there's no standard answer for everybody of how will you scale up. That is something that, depending on what you are doing, you would want to do. You know, very interesting. Let me tell you an anecdote with this. When I was doing my MEP in the IMA, we had a marketing professor, Labdi Bhandari, absolutely fabulous professor. Very tragically, he died in that, if you remember, in those days, in 85 or 86, there was a Air India, or in those days, Indian Airlines plane crash in Ahmedabad. And Professor Bhandari died in that plane crash. Now, we had this case study of this guy who was a breakfast cereal manufacturer in South India. So the case study was, here is this breakfast cereal manufacturer. He has a great business, doing brilliantly well, and so on and so forth. What is your advice to them? So I remember, and we were supposed to make CPs, class presentations, the next day. So we spent the whole night in Ahmedabad. Outside the front gate, there was a tea seller, and who used to sell tea, and he used to sell Maggi noodles. So after we would do our discussions, if we got sleepy, we'd go sit there on the ground. There's a picture of me and my friends there sitting and drinking tea and eating Maggi noodles. So we would do that. So the whole night we spent, and we did all the number crunching and whatnot, and we made all these wonderful presentations, and we came to the class the next day, and we started making the presentation. Now, Professor Bhandari had a way. He would sit on the edge of the desk, and he would have one leg hanging, and his leg would be swinging like a pendulum the whole time, right? He would sit there and he would. So now we were making presentations, all of us passionately into this, every single one of us talking about scaling up. Here is this company doing very well, cash rich. So next step is what? Scaling up. What is the ad campaign? Go all India, go all world. No one must eat anything except my breakfast cereal, blah, blah, blah. We did all of it. When he finished, he listened to all the presentations. There were 4 or 5 of our squads. At the end of all that, he said to us, did you think of suggesting to the man that he should sell his business? We were shocked. Sell his business? He said, yeah. Literally, I mean, I was like this. I mean, whole night we spent, the man trashed it in 1 second. Did you suggest to him to sell his business? I said, why would we do that? He said, why not? Why not? He said, tell me, which is the best business to sell? I said, a business which is doing well, which is cash rich, and which has a great future. He said, exactly. That's the business. Now, this is the point I'm making. Now, he said, after having said that, he said to us, I appreciate all the work you did. And yes, what you have suggested are all our options. I'm not trashing it, but I'm saying to you, why did you not think of selling, capitalizing your work and getting out of that line as also an equally viable option? Why did that not strike you? Why do you only think about upscaling? What is so great about upscaling? So that's my answer to that question. Think about that. Maybe you don't need to upscale.
Very true, very true. Because I think the next question talks about right partnerships and of course, do you really need to have a partnership in place to grow? So,
all right, yes and no. Yes and no in the sense, yes, you need partners, but the nature of partnership. The nature of partnership is the issue. For example, one way of partnership, standard way of partnership is that we are business partners. You structure the company in a way where it is a partnership company. Another way of partnering is people to work independently as independent businesses, but we have an informal understanding that anything that is your area of expertise, I will pass on to you. Now, either I do that for a share of the profit, or I just do it out of the goodness of my heart and you do the same for me. That's also a partnership. Now, the reason I say that is because in my experience of 35 years, I did both. And I found that the second one, which is what I do, my company is called Yawar Baig and Associates. We have a group of people who I work with. Each of us is independent. We rise and fall on our own. We sink or swim on our own. There's no financial complication. There's no issue of my tax, your tax. Simple thing is, if I do, for example, I do not do financial planning. That's not my area. So my financial planning, if I have anything to do, I pass it on to my finance expert. My partner, within quotes, who is a finance expert, I pass it on to him. He deals with it, and that's it. In my case, I do not even take a share of the profit. I don't take anything. I don't care. I don't need it. I give it to them. I said, take it, enjoy, have a good time. And if you need something from me, which is the issue of leadership development, you pass that on to me, and that's what they do. So I won't say you need partners, but decide what kind of partnership works for you. Yeah, next question.
Sure. So we'll just jump to another type of question, which is to do with family business, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you've dwelled with this and written books as well. So I think one of the questions is, what are the best practices to raise above family politics in business? I think that's a sticky.
That is a sticky question, a sticky thing, and as well as that's a absolutely brilliant question. I'm very happy you asked that question. Incidentally, for those of you who are interested, on the 14th of October, I am doing a webinar on family business governance, and that is based out of South Africa. So you will get the notice for that, so you might join that. Now, preparation. So what I say, first of all, read my book. I've shared everything in it, so it's easy. That's the short answer for that. Now, long answer. Preparation, especially for conflicts. What you do is two things. Number one is have what I call the family constitution. Now, family constitution, it's a document that I have prepared. It's a document that I advise my family business clients, and we work through with it. The document that I have prepared is a template, and then we sit with the family and we fill in that template according to that family's values, their belief systems, their kind of business, their culture, and so on and so forth. So I cannot superimpose my way of thinking on somebody. I have no desire to do that as well. So we work together, and we fill in that template. Now, this constitution is like the safety net. The reason I say that is because, especially in conflicts, you must have a conflict resolution process and structure in place before there is a conflict. Once a conflict starts, people are not thinking straight anymore. People's emotions are involved. People's feelings are involved. Most people become incapable of objective thought, and it just creates mess. And usually it ends up in a breakup. So, but if you have a conflict resolution process in place, which is agreed upon by everybody and which has a structure, then you can go through those conflicts very easily and very nicely. And I've got several instances in my own life as a family business consultant where we have been able to work through that. So create a family constitution in which this is taken care of. There are three things that I advise. One is to create a conflict resolution structure. Second thing, which is even more important, is to create a structure where you will take care of young, highly energetic, entrepreneurial youngsters in your family. A lot of time breakups happen because there's this young person, there's this nephew, son, whoever, who has this great idea, but the great idea does not fit in with the traditional business which the father or grandfather or uncle is running, and this person is put down and put down. Eventually, he or she leaves. Now, we don't want that to happen. We want them to be together. We want to use their energy, so create a structure for that. And I call that the venture capital fund, created in the family, and I've given the whole detail of how that is to be done. So that is the conflict resolution structure, and to deal with the entrepreneurial people in the family itself. I think these are two very critical elements. Third very important element is to have very clear entry and exit rules that apply to everybody in the family. Right? It doesn't matter that you have the same surname as the chairman. If you are going to enter the business, you are going to fit into come through the entry criteria. And if you do not do what you are supposed to do, then the exit door is also for you. Even if you are my son or my daughter, it doesn't matter. You are out of that business. You're not out of the family. You are still my son. You are still my daughter, but you are no longer working in the business. I think this kind of hard-nosed approach is absolutely critical. And this is one of the major reasons why family businesses break up, because people go all soft and say, oh, no, but he's my son. That is even more reason you need to kick him out, because his disruption potential is much higher because he is your son. A normal employee would not be able to do that, what your son can do in terms of destroying your business. So I think this is a very important thing to keep in mind. There's a very big business in South Africa of cash and carry stores, which is today the chairman is Gareth Ackerman. But Gareth Ackerman's father, when he was retiring, he got an outside CEO. He did not give the chairmanship to his own son. It created a huge wave in the South African share market. And people asked him, they said, how come you didn't choose your son? He said, because I want myself and my son to continue our lifestyle. And I think that will happen if I get an outside CEO, because if I give the business to my son, then both our lifestyle will get affected. Now the son later on, he went to Harvard and so on and so forth, and he now runs their business as well as their investment portfolio. So obviously he came up and he did a wonderful job. But imagine, here is this father who's taking this very hard decision. That's why I mentioned edge, the cutting edge. If you can't take hard decisions, you cannot survive. Forget about succeed. It must be, you have to take a hard decision. So I tell people, cry as much as you want, but take the decision. Take the decision, then go cry your eyes out, no problem, but take the decision. Because remember, the family needs the business. The business does not need the family. Right? This is something to understand. The family needs the business. The business does not need the family. If PC Mustafa sells his business tomorrow, that business will run. The business does not shut down because PC Mustafa is not the managing director. No. A business is a business. So you want the business to be beneficial for your family? Think about the business. So that's the answer. As I told you, read the book.
Okay. So that brings us to the next question, which is in fact a complete different perspective. So is the limitation of my upbringing and what my parents know, does that become a limitation for me to think in the future? Now,
No. How your parents brought you up, this is an excuse that a lot of people make, right? And the only thing I tell them is very, very clearly. I say, go look in the mirror and tell me how many things you are doing today are exactly what your parents taught you. That's a load of crap, right? That is a load of garbage. What your parents taught you, your parents taught you. What you are doing today is what you decided to do in every aspect of your life. So thank your parents for whatever they taught you, make dua for them. But you are an adult, start behaving like an adult. Make your choices. It doesn't matter what your parents taught you. That doesn't stop you from learning what you need to learn, so learn. Right? Next question. Now you can understand why people ask me to be their mentor and then they run away. Huh? I'm allergic to mentees and to murids. I call them, I say that you are a mentor or you are demented. That's why you want a mentor. So, all right. Who's next?
Rafiq bhai, you're on mute.
I'm on mute?
Rafiq bhai.
Sorry, I'm on
Rafiq
mute.
bhai, you're on mute, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Oh, so that's why you didn't laugh at my joke. So I just said that, I could feel the edge. Okay.
Okay. No, I didn't hear that.
I was in mute. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the next one relates to COVID-19, and I think one of the questions is, how do I have to think different, or can you give us some examples about a business that thought different and is kind of is successful in COVID-19, taking it as an opportunity? Do you have?
All right. You know what? I don't know how many of you will agree that I think that COVID-19 is the best thing that could happen to us. COVID-19 is an absolute, you agree? Thank you. COVID-19 is the absolute, we needed generally, I mean, collectively speaking, we needed a kick in the butt, and COVID-19 gave us that kick in the butt. As simple as that. Right? It forced us, it shut us down, it forced us to sit at home and reflect and learn some things and make changes and so on and so forth. I'm not suggesting that everyone did that. There are a lot of people who wasted that opportunity. That's their fate. But those who didn't waste that opportunity, believe me, you are going to come out of this COVID-19 thing much, much stronger than you were when this thing began. Right? So please do not feel, bad and whatnot. No. This is a brilliant thing. Alhamdulillah, this happened. Fantastic. Brilliant. Now, what do we do with that? As I told you, two major things. One is it gave a huge boost to AI and AI-related products and services. Second thing is this remote working. One of the big things which happened is the real estate market for office space was hugely affected negatively because you don't need the big offices anymore. Another big service industry which got impacted very, very, again, negatively was the office service. The people who clean the offices and so on and so forth, gardens, whatnot, gone. No office, no people. So that is one side of it, which is people are losing jobs and rental space, whatnot. But the other side of it is it gave us an opportunity to use our time far more productively. Now, obviously, if I'm sitting at home, I have a choice of, lying down in front of the television and watching basketball or God knows what, or Netflix, or, and remember, see how people cap it. Netflix, what did Netflix do? Netflix said free subscriptions during the COVID period. Yeah. Now, is that charity or is that a brilliant business strategy? Because they know that you're going to get hooked. So I don't mind free service. What does it cost me? It costs me nothing anyway to give that free service to you. So I give you the free service, you are hooked and you are my customer. So now when I bite you, you pay. Another great business which probably was going to do it anyway, but they escalated, that was Amazon. Amazon Prime deliveries, they have almost totally outsourced that. So the guy who drives the truck, who comes to you with an Amazon smiley on it, that truck belongs to him, or he's rented it from somebody else, doesn't belong to Amazon. Brings down I don't have to explain to all of your business people, so I don't have to explain the maths to you. You understand this very, very clearly. So there are lots and lots of opportunities. We have to look and say, how can I benefit from those opportunities? As far as COVID itself is concerned, we don't know. One thing I tell people is stop talking about COVID, because that's the biggest time waster in the world, right? Nobody's got any answers. What you must do, wear a face mask, wash your hands, stay out of crowded places. That's it. Other than that, forget about COVID. There's no sense in watching all these figures, this happening, that happening, India's number one, so on. Don't worry about all that. As long as you don't have it, and you don't have it because you're sitting in front of the computer, forget about it. Yeah. Look at what are the opportunities that this can give me, and you work on it. Anything else?
Brilliant. So we go to the next, set of questions, which is related to job and business, because while you're a job, you always aspire to become an entrepreneur, right? So One of the questions is, how do I transform effectively from a well-paid job to a full-time entrepreneur? A lot of people make these mistakes.
By putting yourself in line for a kick in the butt. There's no other way, believe me. I have so many friends of mine who tell me, oh my God, I envy you. Oh, beautiful, fantastic. I want to become an entrepreneur. I said, all you need is one piece of paper. Write down, I am gone, finished. No. But you know what? This job I have and blah, blah, blah. I'm running the world and blah. That is the problem. So put yourself in line for a kick in the butt and you get the kick in the butt. Thank your boss for kicking you in the butt and start your business. Simple as that. There is no alternative to cutting the rope. Now, you know what is the biggest problem with that? Because we have conditioned to believe that in a job, within quotes, I have security. Right? Anyone in a job, I have security. I work for GE. Oh, fantastic. I work for IBM. Oh, even more fantastic. I work for Amazon. Oh my God, the only next one is God. Right? You know how much security you have? You've got business owners sitting, you got Mustafa sitting there, you got me sitting there, you got other people, business owners sitting there. Ask us, how many times will I blink before sending somebody home, not even for what they did, but because I need to, within quotes, downsize. I don't think we will even take one extra breath. So that is exactly how much security you have in a job. I don't know of any employer who says that I don't care what happens to my business, I'm going to keep all my people. Because the short answer is, if you keep all your people and your business goes under, everybody goes anyway. So your job security is only as good as your last transaction. Now, my point is, if you are an entrepreneur, that's the exact thing that works for you. So as long as you are focused on delivering quality every single transaction, you are the most secure person. So the mental shift to make is, the job does not give me security, I give myself security. The day you do that, you're going to write a note saying, I am gone. 3 words, I am gone. And you start your business. As simple as that. But as long as you want to have one leg in each boat, you are going to fall in the water and you will get very wet. As simple as that. Right? It's not possible. No, I want to set up the whole business before I leave the job. No. Now, issue is this. You might tell me, well, you are saying this, but this is what you did. And that is true. From 83 to 94, I was doing a full-time job and also preparing to be an entrepreneur. You can do that. But I told you how I did that. 83 to 94, no vacation, not a handkerchief did I buy that I did not need. I lived on a string. I worked 20 hours a day. I used to travel. In my business good means what? It means maximum travel. In 94, when I set up my office full-time in Bangalore, I used to travel between 18 to 24, 25 days every single month. So it was my wife alone in the flat in Bangalore, 25 days of the month. Now, your choice. You want to do all that? You can do that. But my suggestion is, don't do it. That's the hard way of doing it. I had to do it. I had no choice. But if you have a choice, it is much easier, much better to leave that full-time job, rely on yourself, have the confidence, and start.
So that brings us to the next question of procrastination. We just keep thinking about it. Okay. Yes, I need to move. Yes, I need to move. Yes, I need to move. How do I take the plunge? When do I take it?
You will not. You will never take the plunge. You will take the plunge only when you stop procrastinating. You stop procrastinating when it pains enough. That's it. If you are procrastinating, it means it is not paining enough. Then wait for the pain.
Wait for the pain.
Yeah. If it pains enough, you will do it.
You will do it.
2 things. 1 is you want it enough. 2, it pains enough. For most people, want it enough doesn't seem to happen. I don't know why.
Because
They
it's
just
not
talk
training
about
enough.
it.
Yeah. It's not.
You know what? You know, the problem is this. The reason why wanting enough doesn't happen is because we confuse talking for doing. So just because I want to talk about, oh, I want to build this business, I want it this way, this way, this way, it gives me satisfaction. I haven't done anything. I just talked about it. It gives me satisfaction. So my need level comes down. So I say to people, stop talking about it, do it.
Do it.
Or wait for the pay. And that's why a kick in the butt is a wonderful thing. And that's what COVID did to a lot of people. You are out of a job, not because you are a lousy guy or because you stole something or whatever. You are out of a job because your company decided to downsize. But you are out of a job. Now what? Now here's a fantastic opportunity. Let me start my business. Right? I see Mohammed Mustafa here. Assalamu alaikum. Good to see you, man. I'm seeing you after so long. All right.
So he's been waiting. So Mustafa has been waiting to, with a couple of these questions to ask you. So I just leave it to him to ask these questions.
Don't unmute Mustafa, for God's sake. Okay, Mustafa, tell me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you send your idlis to me in America here? I mean, you know what? Great business opportunity. Why don't we partner? I start a ID Fresh thing in America. What do you think?
Inshallah, we can speak.
All right. Okay, your question.
Thank you for sharing this wonderful journey. It was a great session. We really enjoyed it. May Allah reward you in both words.
Ameen, ameen.
May God bless you. I have two personal questions to you.
Yeah.
My first question is on ethics and values in the business. That's my favorite subject as well. So my first question to you is, what's the importance of ethics values in the business? What are the challenges that you faced? Just to ask you a personal question, including the way you dress, which is different from the so-called corporate dress code. Did you face any such value conflicts, and how did you overcome? Share a story with us.
All right. Let me start from the back first. The way I dress. First of all, I don't dress this exclusively. I also have Armani suits and stuff, so don't worry about that. But the point is that I dress like this most of the time. Let me tell you a story about that. I was doing an interview in South Africa for a national television station. So, and that was again on entrepreneurship and business and so on and so on. And at the end of the interview, the interviewer asked me the same question. And she said to me, how does a man in a turban do the kind of work you do? So I said, a man in a turban runs my country, because at that time, Manmohan Singh was the prime minister. So I said, a man in a turban runs my country. Nobody's got an objection. So why will they have objection to me? And believe me, I have never, ever encountered any problem from anybody because of the way I dress. And you know why? Because I'm a management consultant. I'm not a model. They have not hired me to give their daughter in marriage to me. I'm already married very happily. I don't want a second wife. They hired me to do a particular job for them. And they hired me because they believe I'm the best guy to do that job. And I am busy trying to prove them right. So they don't care how I dress as long as I dress. I mean, I don't think they would have, they would probably have an objection if I had turned up without anything on. But, other than that, believe me, this is one of the big problems. People think, oh, you know what? People are discriminating against me because no. Nobody's interested. Your client is interested in what you are giving to them. You can look like a monkey. Who cares? So number one. Number two, the dress and so on and so forth, it also indicates your own values. It indicates your own confidence in yourself, in your identity. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Swami Agnivesh passed away. I met him once. I was doing a lecture in the Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Administration, Mussoorie, the IAS Academy there, and he was the speaker before me. He used to wear saffron robes and a saffron turban. Nobody objected to that. I mean, he passed away. Wonderful man. I'm very, very sorry to hear that he passed away. But the point I'm saying is, your dress doesn't matter, right? Number two question, which was your first question, which you asked me, ethics and values. Now, I've mentioned that a couple of times in my presentation as well. To me, that is non-negotiable. Absolutely non-negotiable. As simple as I will walk away if somebody tells me to do something which is unethical. And I don't care what business I lose. Now, this is not just words. You told me to tell you a story. I'm telling you a story. Now, I won't name the company, but one of the big companies, which also talks a lot about ethics and values and so on and so forth. This was in 1994 when I was very hungry, just starting my business, literally hand to mouth. My rent for my flat in Jamal Extension in Bangalore was 7,000 rupees per month. There were months in which 2 or 3 days before the rent was due, I did not have 7,000 rupees in the bank. That is how hand to mouth my existence was in that first year. The reason I'm telling you that is because at that time, this company called me and they said, we want you to do a leadership program, give us a design for a 3-day residential leadership program, and it must have MBTI, Myers-Briggs type indicator in that. At that time in 94, I was one of like 3 or 4 MBTI consultants in India. And I had been qualified. GE sent me to Otto Krager in Fairfield, and I was qualified in MBTI as an MBTI consultant. So I got my thing from there, and GE sent me for that. So I was there. Now, I said, okay, I was absolutely thrilled. I said, here is this business. There were almost, I had to train almost 200 people at their mid-level. This was like imagine I needed money that badly, and here was this big chunk of business. So I went away. I came back with the design. This the training manager, this lady, she saw the design. She liked it very much. Confirmed. What is your fee? This much is the fee. In those days, I think I was charging something like 5,000 rupees a day or something like this. So very happy. Then about 3 days before, or 2 or 3 days before the program was due to be run, she phones me and she says, Yawar, can you please come and meet us? So I said, what happened? She said, no, just please come. I said, okay. So I went off to their office. When I got there, she tells me, everything is fine, but the MBTI instrument, which we have to buy, there was a supplier in those days called Mr. Oja. And they used to supply the MBTI instrument because it's a copyrighted instrument. And the consultant's number has to be given to the supplier. They didn't just sell it. You couldn't just go and buy it. A consultant had to say that they were training you, and only then they sold it. So she says to me, that instrument costs a lot of money. I think in those days, if I'm not mistaken, it was like $2 or $3 per piece. And we used to hand score it. So you needed that paper. There was no internet and whatnot. So she said, can you photocopy it and use it? So I was absolutely, I said, I literally said, so she said, she thought I was thinking about it, whether, so she said, no, everybody does it. I said, hold on a second. I said, you know what? I'm looking at your face and I'm saying you are working for this company which talks so much about ethics and values and whatnot. And you are asking me this question, can we photocopy and use it? I said, that is theft. That's copyright violation. She said, no, but this is India. Everybody does it. I said, is this how you want to be identified as an Indian, as a thief? All Indians are thieves. I said, I love my country. I love my country. I am proud of my country, and I am not a thief. She said, 200 people you are going to, how much of money this means for you? I said, of course I know. I am the one who is hungry, not you. She said, well, you know what? If you are not going to agree to this, then maybe we have to reconsider. I said, please reconsider. Goodbye. I'm gone from here. I walked away. They did not give me the business. They gave it to somebody else who photocopied and used the MBTI instrument. But the payoff for me, first of all, I was very happy. I will not go against my own principles, which is I do not steal, period. What was even more important for me was, many years later, another client tells me They went to this Mr. Ojha and they wanted to buy this instrument, MBTI. And this person at that time didn't have my MBTI consultant ID number with them. So she said to me, I phoned Mr. Ojha and I said, Mr. Yawar Baig is doing the thing for us. And I'm sorry, I don't have his consultant ID. Mr. Ojha says, don't worry about that. We know Yawar Baig. If he is doing it for you, we will sell it to you. You don't have to give us the ID. Now that was something to me. I said, fantastic. Alhamdulillah, I have, what I did was right. So as far as ethics and values are concerned, I will not do something which goes against my ethics and values, because the one who feeds me is up there, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not the client. And my life proves it. I mean, I didn't miss a single, even though many times, as I told you in that first year, I didn't have money to pay the rent 1 or 2-3 days before, and I never missed a payment because it always came.
MashaAllah.
My second parts of the question.
Again, my favorite subject, which is your favorite too, by the way. There's a perception that industry businesses are not scalable. What's your view on feasibility of building large businesses without interest?
All right.
I'm specifically asking this question because you had once mentioned to me about your conversation with the Infosys chairman, Narayana Murthy, on his take on industry businesses. Do you want to share the story with us?
Yeah. Well, that's a good story. I was teaching a course. They used to have a course called Pravesh. And this was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was in the year 2000. I had just returned from America. And this was the course. We did it in Hosur in Bangalore. Now, I was teaching the course, and then it was the coffee break. And Mr. Murthy and I, we were having a chat. And he was talking, he had done a session on ethics and values. And one of the things he shared with us some very inspiring stories. One is, he said, we are an interest-free company. We have no bank borrowings. We do not pay interest to anybody. The second thing is, he told us 2 stories of integrity. One is, he said that when they started the business, it was in Pune, and he said we had a share capital totally, or 7 people together, we had a share capital of 10,000 rupees. He said we imported a PC. So it was a 486 or something, or 386, and we imported this PC. So it came to the warehouse, and he said I had to go and get, sign the thing at the import thing, and pay the duty and get the PC. He said when I went there, the person there, the government official, he said, give me 100 rupees. So Murthy said, for what? He said, well, this is, you must, if you don't give that, I will not sign it. So Mr. Murthy said, I will not give you. Our policy is we don't pay bribes. So I will not give you. He said, what is there, 100 rupees? He said, no, it's not a question of how much is it. I can afford to give you 100. I will not do it because it's a matter of principle. So the man said, okay, your choice. Now, Mr. Murthy asked him, I said, so what did he said? I used to go every single day to that office, and I would go and sit there in that office the whole day. He said, because I had nothing else to do. I mean, without that PC, business couldn't start. So anyway, I had nothing to do. I would go there. He said, all my partners, nobody told me to give the bribe, but they said to me, look, I mean, we also can't be sitting doing nothing. So if you don't mind, we'll go do some work and so on, try to earn some money, but we support you. So Murthy said, yes, that's fine. He said it came to the point where the, in these government offices, they have a peon, a chaprasi who's sitting outside the door. There is a stool there, right? So you go inside for the holy master, but this guy is sitting. He said that guy got so, he used to feel embarrassed. So whenever I came, he would get up and give me his stool, so I would sit there. He said, this man, this government official, coming into the office, going out, if he went to the loo, or he went for it, whatever, he would see my face every single day. He said he called me in, he tried to persuade me. He told me, you are a young guy, you don't understand, this is business. How will you run your business if you are like this? You have to be realistic, blah, blah. Mr. Narayana Murthy said, I told him, all of that, I know all of these arguments and more. I am not paying you a bribe, and I'm going to sit here until you pass this thing. We have fulfilled all the norms. There is no reason why we should not get this computer, and we will sit. I am going to sit here until it happens. I asked him, how long did it take? He said 18 months. 18 months. Right? It's an amazingly inspiring story. I mean, I tell you, every time I think about that story, I said, fantastic. That's it's a beautiful, beautiful story. 18 months. And he said at the end of 18 months, he said, the man just simply got sick of seeing my face. So he gave it. Second story he said to us is, he said in the early days, actually there are now 3 stories. So second story, he said in the early days, if you exported a certain value of goods, then the government allowed you to import a percentage of that value. So supposing you have exported for a value worth of say $1 million, the government allowed you to import say $500,000 worth of imports, which were given to you, which were duty free, or they had a concessional duty or something. He said every IT company in Bangalore and probably also in the country, he said they used to import software. So for example, in those days, those of you who are old enough to remember, if you bought Microsoft Office, you got a set of floppy disks and you got manuals, which were books. Murthy said that my finance guy came to me one day and he said to me, sir, every company in the country, he said, I've checked out, every company, they are splitting the value of this package into 2. And they are paying duty on the floppy disks, and they are using a loophole in the import regulations where Government of India said in those days, that is, and in the beginning when the import regulations were written, Nehru was the Prime Minister. He said the Government of India wrote in this regulation to say, we will not charge duty on books because we want our children, our generations to have the best education. So there is no duty on books. So he said what people are doing is they are buying this thing. So if it costs, the whole package costs $100, $40 for the floppy disks, they are paying import duty on that, $60 worth of books they are getting for free. He said, we are the only company which is not doing that. We are paying duty on the whole thing. So allow us to do that. Narayana Murthy says to me, he said, I asked him, when this policy was written with the intention of allowing people like you to make money? Or was it written because the government said we want our children to have the best education? He said, my finance guy went away. He never came back. We never changed the policy. Right? This is the meaning of ethics. Along with this story, he said to me that we are probably the only company who, when we file our IT returns, they just simply take it and file it. The department simply takes it and files it. We have never had a query in our lives. And this is from when my conversation was 2000. So don't ask me what happened after 2000 to 2020. I'm talking about until 2000. Final story he said to me was, he said that Rane Breakliners, right? The company in Koramangala. He said that they had one scooter between the 7 partners. So he said one day that he went there to make a presentation about some service that they wanted to give them, and driving out, this scooter died. So they decided, okay, this is bad. We can't have things like this. We must get a car. So what do? They buy an ambassador car. Now this is ambassador company's car, ambassador one car between 7 partners. He said we used to maintain a logbook, and every personal use of that car would be entered in that logbook, and we would pay for the petrol for that personal use, every single one of us. So if I took the car to drop my child to school, I would log that mileage and I would pay to the company that money. Ethics and values. So I asked him, I said, in the class you said that you are an interest-free company. Why? He said, because interest destroys wealth. Then he says to me, strange, you are asking me this question. This is not even in your religion. I said, that's not strange. It's not in my religion, but in your religion, it is not there. So what's the problem? Why do you do that? Why do you have to do it? He said, because interest destroys wealth. I said, how did you do your scaling? He told me a wonderful story. He said, we decided no bank borrowing. So that was not an option for us. So what did we do? He said, we went to people and sold shares. He said there were three kinds of people. When I went to them to sell shares, there were three kinds of people. One was people who were my, friends or family members or something. And they said, paisa kekara, unnu kudukalena, apdiye poiruvan. After all, the boy has come, my son has come. How can I send him empty-handed? He wants some money, just give him. So they didn't believe in me. They didn't believe the company was worth anything. But because I came, they didn't want to send me away for nothing. So they bought some shares, right? He said, second set of people, they refused. Yeah, sorry, not interested. Third set of people, he said, were people who genuinely believed that we could do something. They genuinely believed in me. They believed in us. They believed that we could achieve something. They also bought shares. He said, today, when we have the highest number of dollar millionaires of any company, the people who sent me away, they come to me and they say, you should have forced us. You should have forced me to buy. He said, how am I going to force you? I mean, I can't hold a gun to your head. I brought you the shares. I gave you the thing. This. You say you should have forced me. How would I force you? Now, the issue is interest-based borrowings. Can you upscale without that? Yes. The problem is not this or that. The problem is options, the creativity to show value to your potential investor. Remember, we are not talking about availability of funds. You're talking about how those funds will come to you. Whether the person is going to lend you that money for interest, or whether the person is going to buy a share in your company, or you got some other way, a profit share, because sometimes people say to me, you know what, venture capital funding is nice, but I don't want to lose control of the company. I don't want to sell off pieces of my company, then I own nothing. No. Which is the no longer today again, but which is the biggest zero interest company with the biggest shareholder base? Reliance. When Dhirubhai Ambani was alive, they didn't take one single paisa loan from any bank. And that's not because of belief, that is because no bank was going to give them. The banks refused to give them. So what did he do? He went to the public. It was his principle. As long as he lived, it was his principle, no borrowing from any bank. He went to the public. So there are many options, many ways of upscaling. It's a matter of your own creativity. It's a matter of your thinking. It's a matter of creating new options. Interest-based borrowing is something which makes no sense whatsoever, and which is, as Narayana Murthy said, it destroys wealth, and I completely agree with the man. So that's like, you asked one story, I told you so many stories.
No, I wish we can continue this. We planned about 1 hour 40 minutes, but I think we've nearly hit 2 hours. It's been a fantastic session, and I think your energy is amazing, and I'm sure that this has passed on to a lot of people. So we'll try and close the session now. I'm sure there are still more unanswered questions. Maybe we can take up a session some other time. So, maybe Mustafa can talk to you some other time and probably influence you to do that. So, first of all, thank you very much.
Let me, if you give me 5 minutes, I want to answer one question, which one of the participants who's here, he asked me, he sent the question to me, and sure. I told him I will answer it. So I just want to, very, very, very interesting question. And that question was that he sent me this book, or not the book, but he sent me the name of the book. There's a book called Leadership First by Gifford Thomas. And the tagline, I've not read the book, but the tagline says, are you willing to sacrifice the numbers to save the people? And along with that was Simon Sinek's quote, where he said, great leaders are willing to sacrifice the numbers to save the people. Poor leaders sacrifice the people to save the numbers. Now, nice quote and nice tagline. But this friend of mine, he asked this question. He said, with the increasing competition and so on, how can we ignore quality metrics to save people? What is the tipping point? I think it's a wonderful question, and maybe it's something which you would also, other people also have in mind. Once again, my answer to that is, don't think either or. Think and. Meaning that either or in this case is not a choice. It's not a question of sacrificing your numbers to save the people or sacrificing people to save the numbers. Because the simple story is, if you do either of these, you're going to lose. If you don't sacrifice, within quote, sacrifice the people, your company might shut down. And then you are sacrificing the people anyway, right? And if you sacrifice, the people, your numbers won't necessarily improve, and that's another very big issue. So the issue is, how do you view numbers? How do you view people? Now, two things. First of all, it's an opportunity for you to see how did all of these people come on board in the first place. Because you know and I know, people don't just walk into a company and say, I'm working for you from today. You hired them. So check what is your hiring process. There is a book of mine called Hiring Winners. Read that as well. Check your hiring process. How are you hiring? How come you ended up with so many more people than you needed in the first place? Because that is the killer. That is what is killing you today. It's not the number of people. It is your bad hiring process, where you ended up hiring far more people than you needed. And now you are in trouble. And now you think that sending people home will solve your problem. No, it will not solve your problem, because that is not your problem. Your problem is your hiring process, number one. Number two, look at organizational inefficiencies. Unfortunately, there are two items on the balance sheet or on the PLL account which people strike off the first. First is number of people. Two is training budget. These are the two things that most people strike off the moment they have financial troubles. Both are very bad choices, because they do not make a significant impact on your bottom line in any case, and they result in a lot of unnecessary problems for you. Plus, as far as training budget is concerned, when you are low in business, people are free. That is the best time to train them, and you lose that. And when the business picks up again, now the people need the training, but they have no time. So cutting costs by sacking people is never a great idea. Think about that. Now, what must you do, however? Because you still, irrespective of the fact that you've identified your problems with hiring, you still need to reduce your headcount. What do you do? Sacking people is not the only option. There are many options. Just like I mentioned here, as far as upscaling is concerned, interest-based loans is not the only option. Similarly, sacking people is not the only option. So what are the other options? Many other options. For example, get those people. First of all, ask people. Some people may want to leave. And as long as you are paying them a severance package, they are happy to go. So let them go. But the other ones who need the job, think about different ways. One is outsourcing. For example, take Amazon deliveries, for example. That could be an option that you're using to downsize, where you give your employees something to do. Now they are entrepreneurs. You set them up in business. They're still working for you, but in a different context. So there may be so many different ways of dealing with it, and that is what I would, I would suggest to do. The second question, which was asked to me also, is should enterprises have the choice of being shareholder focused or stakeholder focused? And this is from another very dear friend of mine from Hyderabad, Mr. T.S. Babu. And then he said that as far as CSR is concerned, in India, there is a statute that 1% of the turnover should be spent on CSR, but accountants manage it without doing any real service. Should a stricter company law be enacted? So two questions: stricter company law, and the first question is shareholder focused or stakeholder focused. Now, my submission to you is the problem here begins with our approach and our values and our attitude. Laws cannot substitute for values. You cannot enforce honesty. right? You can punish people who are dishonest, but you cannot enforce honesty. You cannot enforce truthfulness. If I want to tell a lie, I will tell a lie. I mean, you can try to catch me telling a lie, and you can punish me if you catch me. But if I still want to tell a lie, I can still tell a lie. You're not going to change me. So one of the big issues is how we raise our children. This is not directly in line with businesses directly, but how we raise our children, what ethics and values we practice at home, what ethics and values we practice in our organizations on an ongoing basis, not only when there is a crisis. Number one. Number two, shareholder or stakeholder, because the shareholder is also a stakeholder. If you are shareholder focused, then you are depriving other stakeholders of what justifiably is theirs in order to favor one set of stakeholders called shareholders. And that is always a problem. So very important. Please also try to do this where you're focused on these two things. And as far as Simon Sinek's quote and the book, I think I have answered both these questions. Over to you, Ravi.
So thank you very much. So I think it probably brings us to the end of the session. Mirza Saab, it's been a great session. You touched upon so many points. I was trying to take a couple of notes, and I have a couple of pages now. Okay, so you talked about how you transitioned from being a job seeker to a job creator. You talked about attitude. You talked about how you need to build trust, how you need to have the edge, how you need to take risks, how you need to be disciplined and structured to record everything, have a goal. And then I loved your 4 C's, the people, the communication, the compassion, collaboration, and conflict. And the 5 P's, I've named it as PPPED, which is your passion, edge, discipline, people, and perseverance. And last but not least, you talked about don't grow for the sake of growth. And I don't think I've written it properly, but it says the work of a cancerous cell. Okay, I've got the idea there, right?
Growth
So
for the sake
keep
of
it simple.
growth is the philosophy of the cancer cell. And that is the quote from my friend Madhukar Shukla, Professor Madhukar Shukla from XLR.
So keep it simple, no idea. Excellent. And then think of the mosquito bat, because I think that is the simplest and the best thing that has actually happened. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the viewers for having spent the time. In India, I know it's a little late. So thank you very much. And I think going forward, you probably will still have this link, a recorded version of it. And if you have more questions or any other clarifications to ask, maybe you can send us and we can probably put it to Mirza Saab if you want some more clarifications. So thank you and God bless. Jazakallah khaira.
Jazakallah khaira. Thank you very much.